You're listening to the Governor's Podcast, which is hosted by school governors for school governors and for all involved in or impacted by education governance. On the Governor's Podcast, we have open, honest and transparent discussions about governance in the UK education sector, sharing and providing insights into the realities of entering the boardroom, sitting around the governing board table and leaning in.
Hello, I'm Sharon Warmington and I support schools and academies as a governor, governance practitioner and a clerk. I'm also the CEO of the National Black Governors Network, supporting the education sector in diversifying their governing boards.
And it's Olivia D. Hind here, an under 30, unapologetically black female who is changing the face and space of school governance.
And you're listening to the Governor's Podcast.
Okay, let's get into today's topic.
Do you prefer virtual or in-person meetings?
Virtual. 100%, not even 95%, 150%.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
I've experienced.
Yeah, the governing body that I'm currently a member of, I haven't had an in-person meeting yet.
As the governor.
Or
as a governor.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have, obviously, prior to the first lockdown, March 2020, meetings were meetings. So as clerk, I would attend the meetings and things like that. My preference is definitely virtual.
Okay, we need to break it down a little as to why we feel so strongly about virtual.
I don't even think it's a case of our preference. It's almost what will come September 2021, because I'm saying to my governing bodies, let's just continue the way we are for the end of this academic year.
Yeah.
Rather than worrying about shall we, shan't we, when for most governing bodies there's only one meeting left, really,
just
for the summer
term.
Yeah. Right. Outside of committee meetings, there's only really one meeting left.
Yeah.
So do we want to try and force a situation for the summer? But from September, so the discussion will need to be had in the summer meeting, really.
You would hope so, but I don't know if it's something that is going to come up on people's agendas. Like, it really should be something that is voted on, discussed and voted on.
I think it should be openly discussed and not an automatic assumption
that we're just going to go back. We never travel backwards.
Wow.
The past is the past, right? You never go back.
Hold on, but are you completely opposed to meeting face to face, like just full stop?
If we're friends and it's social, then yes.
But in terms of governing body meetings,
if they said, if I'm being 100% honest, because I like to be honest.
Absolutely, go for it.
If they said,
who's they?
Okay, the powers that be. If there was a decision that said meetings will only be virtual unless absolutely necessary,
you would have a problem.
I'd be like, okay, I'm fine, cool, makes sense.
What if they said all meetings have to now return to face to face?
I'd ask why. If you're saying all, I'd ask why.
What about, as part of being a governor, you need to know the school that you're governing.
I see that separately.
Okay.
Governor visits, I'm not saying I, as a governor, will never go into a school.
Right, okay.
I'm saying, that's what I say, if there is a reason or if it's absolutely necessary, of course, for me to be able to do a learning walk, I know they do those more in primary school than secondary school, I believe. But if I need to see a specific, like if I have a link governor role and I need to look at physical evidence of something, or there's events going on in the school and I want to be able to either see how the school...
So you're not opposed to going to the school.
No, I'm not opposed to going to the school, even though it's like I just feel like now that we've done the meetings virtually, like I'm now conscious. I'm now conscious of there being a strong justification as to me traveling in and going to the school. Governor visits, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to sit in a room and look at each other.
I think what is probably happening, and again, I'm so happy with virtual, but I think what is probably happening is that we are, and I'll use the royal we kind of thing, society at large, we're trying to almost claw back some of what we had before.
Yeah.
Not necessarily recognizing that what we've gained in this new world, it has benefited us in terms of the ability to switch on to a meeting and switch off from a meeting and be at home.
Yes.
Can't be underestimated.
Yes, I think it's very much the back to normal versus embracing new normals. I think it's very much that. I'm not saying that in-person meetings don't have their pros.
Yes.
So I can understand why someone would have them, but for me, I'm thinking as a governing body, we're there to be strategic and we're there to practice efficiency. And I'm just thinking of the meetings that I've had. I genuinely don't see why you would then get rid of them or not do them.
What additional benefit will there be from it being in person?
And that's the key thing, additional benefit.
Because I think what will happen is that the majority will probably go back to face and quickly realise.
Ooh, can't be doing this for too long.
You know, the travelling. Remember, autumn term meetings, it gets dark at 4 o'clock.
Started.
Right, it's windy, it's rainy. I think the travelling, so leaving work for those who are employed, or leaving home, or leaving wherever you are to travel, the impact. So a 2-hour meeting turns into
3 hours, 4 hours,
4, 5 hours out of your day,
and you cut off access to skill sets, because you could there could be a skill set you need. And you know someone in your network who can fill that skill set, and they can be a part of your governing body, but geographically it creates a barrier.
Well, I can give you an example of that. One of my governors has recently relocated out of the city.
Okay.
But was able to continue being a governor until the end of this academic year because it's virtual.
Yes.
Now, that would not have been possible because in other governing bodies that I've clerked, a governor leaving, moving cities means that it automatically you can't get to the meetings because of the location. And I say to I do this in my training sessions when people are wanting more diverse boards. I say to them, you have to look beyond your current school boundary to get the diversity that you want if you are in an area where there is little diversity.
Of course,
And the fact of being virtual means that you can push those boundaries.
Yes, definitely.
And what I've suggested to anybody that I speak to really is, yes, going back, so academic year 21-22, right? So from September, my suggestion is a hybrid.
Yeah.
So you have...
But hybrid doesn't mean 50-50.
No. Some meetings are held in person.
Yes.
And my suggestion, if you are a school that has committee structure...
Make all the committees virtual.
Have all the committee meetings virtual automatically.
Yeah.
And have the full governing body meeting...
the summer term.
In person, if you must. And I say that because not everybody's going to be comfortable meeting back. So even though the country is going to reopen back this summer, middle of June, you know, I personally am not. I'm still on lockdown as far as I'm concerned.
No, you see, it's this terminology.
No, okay.
Terminology of reopening. For me, if anything, the world opened up more. The country opened up more. You saw more. You learned more.
That is true.
Like, this is why I say,
but then that goes back because I've had reports of people spending more time with their family, because they're not having to travel. Teachers can leave school, go home, be on the meeting, and then be home for their families. Having not, if you've been in school as a teacher since 8 o'clock in the morning to then be in a governing body meeting,
and you're leaving at
8 o'clock at night, that's a long day.
Extremely.
And if you're living, most people don't live 10 minutes away from their job. So there's a travel as well that you have to accommodate.
This is what I'm saying. Like you were saying, so what are the benefits of in-person meetings? I'm not saying there aren't any. I am just yet to hear one that really makes sense. When people are just, it probably makes it sound like I'm very antisocial, but it's not that. I'm selective with who I socialize. I really do like the people that I am a governor alongside. So I do like my colleagues. I do. I've got nothing against them personally, but I'm thinking it has to really, because we've now done it. It's like people who work jobs, and before lockdown and before all of this, they would ask if they could work part-time at home, and they'll say, no, you can't do it at home. Your job needs to be done here. 12 months of this, and people are now negotiating how they want to work. I think the same thing works the same thing applies to being a school governor and doing it voluntary and stuff like that. And all I'm hearing is, I can't wait for us to sit in a room together again. And for me, that's not a benefit for me. That's not a benefit for me. And if it is a benefit, it's not strong enough for me to go, okay, what else you got? You got to give me something else.
Yeah, I've actually...
Because that actually creates anxiety. Because it's been proposed to me, a live meeting, and the sort. I have not had someone propose to me a live in-person meeting in over 14 months. So the sort, I had no idea that I was going to react the way I did to that email when I saw it. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't...
It is an anxiety.
I don't know if I'm ready for that.
I was contacted to deliver some training in the autumn term. Mm-hmm. And my assumption was that it would be virtual, because that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
But they wanted it in person. And I'm thinking, where you're located is going to be a 6-hour round trip.
There you go.
And you want it at 9:30 in the morning for half a day.
Yeah.
Which means I've got to stay overnight the night before.
For it, so that you don't have to battle that
there's
traffic.
No way I could get up and do that. And so that a half a day has then turned into, in essence, 2 days of my time.
Yes.
So that's going to add to the cost.
Yes.
And so I gave a virtual price and an in-person price.
Because you really have to do that.
You really have to do that.
Because you have to factor in so much more when you're travelling in. It's the time you're travelling in. It's the cost. Because as you say, the meetings. Luckily, I live in the same city, literally the same city as the schools that I'm a governor at. But if I just lived on the outskirts, or even living in the same city, you then facing peak time traffic. You're thinking of parents who are having to leave work, parent governors who are then having to come in, and people who do other things. When you think of people who... you see, the thing is, I don't want people to get the wrong opinion about my opinion, but it's my opinion, right? So I understand the whole screen time and all that kind of stuff. But when I think part of that is an excuse, because you do look at your screen a lot.
A lot anyway, yeah.
So you do look at because if you're not looking at a laptop screen, you're looking at your phone screen, you're looking at a TV screen. So I'm thinking about the efficiency of going from one meeting to the next, for example.
Yeah.
Because let me take an example of my tutoring. All of my 90% of my tutoring starts at 5 p.m. Because my tutoring students are obviously in school during the day. So the earliest we start is 5 o'clock. If I have to be in, say I'm a part of a school, I'm not in this scenario I'm going to give you, but imagine I'm a part of a school where their meetings take place between 12 2:30 and 4:30. So 2-hour meeting, and they take place in the afternoon because that's what works for the majority of the governors at that school. If that meeting is finishing at 4:30 and it's in person, and I have an appointment at 5 o'clock, that half an hour...
You're not going to make it.
No, because one, I'm not going to sit in the school and do my tutoring session because my tutoring sessions are virtual. I don't want to leave the meeting earlier because then I could miss a key discussion or decision or whatever on the agenda or whatever. And I don't want to cancel either of them because one is bringing me money and one is my give back. So if it's virtual, I ain't got a problem. Everyone, bye, leave, ping, ping. I can run to the loo, I can then reposition myself, and I can start my tutoring session. So I'm thinking that's why I say I am yet to hear a benefit for in-person meetings that is strong enough to outweigh the benefit of virtual meetings.
Yeah, I get
That's what I'm waiting for. Because tell me, look at the May we've had. Rainy, yes?
Yeah.
You tell me a meeting is scheduled and I hear that rain coming down. Do I really? So that's why I say the term doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
The term doesn't, because you would think, the summertime meetings, because then the weather's nice, people are more open to traveling, but people may also make more plans because of the weather being nice and wanting to maximize it. So I don't want you to dictate to me what I can and can't do because of the in-person meeting.
I think there's a lot for schools to discuss.
It's
and
a big
consider.
debate. That's why it needs to be on agenda items.
Because another thing that we haven't talked about is when you are on screen. Like for me, if I'm going to do a meeting and I'm
is this about dressing?
Yeah, I've now got my I've organised my diary to the point now where I try and have all of my meetings to over 1 or 2 days.
So you could get that makeup done.
So I do my makeup for one day. I remember once I put makeup on for a half an hour meeting and I'm thinking, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So I stopped that quickly because I then said, okay, if I'm going to put a meeting in on Wednesday, then anybody else who wants to meet with me, they're going to meet me on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because I've got to maximize that makeup.
Okay, no, it makes sense. It sounds small, it sounds trivial. But when you think about it,
that's time, that's effort, that's energy.
Yes.
I will then usually wear something that reflects well on Zoom, and by that I mean colour.
Yeah.
So a lighter colour blouse or something, so that the light bounces off and all that kind of stuff. To do that effort every day, and that's just Zoom. To do that, to leave the house,
no,
because those meetings I wouldn't be able to have come off one at 12:30, go on to another one at 1, come off one at 1:30, another one at 2. And that's how my diary works at the moment. So, and I can bounce between meetings. Like I know coming up, I've got a full governing body meeting on the same day as I'm delivering a session. So I will start with that meeting and then I will leave. The meeting starts, I think, at 5 o'clock and my delivery one starts at 6:30. So I can do that meeting, the full governing body meeting, and then just click off and click on to and start delivering my session. There is no way I could do that in person. But the thing that is causing me the most anxiety, putting on a pair of shoes.
Mate! Mate!
I haven't worn, and when I say shoes, I mean shoes with heels, any kind of heel. It doesn't even have to be high heeled.
Anything.
Just anything that sort of holds my foot, that it isn't a slipper and isn't a pair of trainers.
Yes. And when you think about it, you then get into it. It's not just the heels and being on your feet or even being in dress shoes or whatever. You then start to think, am I dressed appropriately? Because no one's actually going to say anything. But how do you feel that you may come across if you're wearing something that you feel comfortable with, because after this meeting you pop into Tesco's to do the family shop or whatever, but are you dressed appropriately for the meeting and stuff? Most days now I wear leggings or a pair of joggers, leggings, and no one is going. People, personally, I could be getting too deep into this, but I think virtual meetings allows people to think more about what's in my head than how I look.
Yeah.
Because when you turn up to in-person meetings or whatever, people, they talk about first impressions count and everything. So they look at how you dress, and if you're dressed professional on their spectrum, then it's like, oh, you're worth listening to. But if you're on a virtual meeting, you don't see how the whole person's dressed. You don't know if they've got a dressing gown wrapped around their waist, so you don't know if they've got slippers on. You don't know if they're dressed like workwear head to toe, but you're listening to what they say and their contribution rather than when they walk in the room. Personally, if you want a social club, you can meet with the same people on your social time, but I don't think the meeting should be a social experience like that.
Well, the evidence shows a higher attendance rate.
There you go.
It shows more efficiency of meetings, because I don't think in the time of lockdown that any of my meetings have been 2 hours.
And even if they are, they're not there. You're still hitting the point. It's not dragging.
It's not dragging. In fact, some of mine have gone from 2 hours.
They've actually gone down.
They've gone down to an hour and a half, an hour and 15 minutes.
Because you're conscious of the screen time.
But also
and
because
you're
just more efficient. The discussions and everything. I find that people have prepared more. And so one of the schools that I've actually stepped down from now as Clerk, the meetings are at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Whoa. And see, from there, I wouldn't even sign up to be a governor. I knew that.
I knew that at some point I was going to step down, because I just
plan ahead.
I plan ahead. So I think I've done 7 years, and it's time to step down. But I think it was the last meeting where the meeting was at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I had to get up. at I think it was 6:30.
And this is virtual?
I know, 6:30 to shower, get dressed, do a full face of makeup. Now that I choose to put makeup on,
yeah, of course. But so you got to get ready.
But I've got to get ready,
because things like that help to get you mentally prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so. And get online and everything and ready for 8 o'clock. And then it hit me. These are going back to in-person meetings
at some point. So how much more do I have to do?
It then reminded me of when before lockdown, for those meetings, my alarm would go off at 5:30 because I'm having to then negotiate the best time to leave the house to avoid the traffic.
Because you almost need to leave half an hour earlier just to be there on time. Because if you leave 5 minutes later, you could be late.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't be negotiating that.
I think that was the deciding point for me to say, no. I definitely, for me, I don't want to go back to that.
I just want school. I mean, it's already a challenge to get governors. I professionally.
Well, let me ask you the question. Do you think young people, and by young, because I've been pushing a lot on the agenda, the age of getting 20-somethings around the governing body and the trust board table. Do you think that it's easier to attract younger people for virtual meetings than in-person meetings?
Okay, I'm going to first qualify whatever I say next, or disclaimer whatever I say next, with I'm one person.
Yeah.
I'm one young person in their 20s, so I'm not speaking for all. But I think I could rightly assume that it will be more attractive to young people. One, because screens and technology isn't an issue for us in the main.
Because you're always on your screen.
Yes. And two, it will show that governance in education is moving forward. Because if you think of the average age of the governors now, and the general thing is, cannot wait to go back, but yet you want to attract new people and all they're thinking about is going forward. That's why I say you're going to be careful with terminology, perspective, language. And so for me, send a link is more attractive than this is the location, this is the time you need to be here. Do you want the papers printed, or would you like to? No, make it easy.
These are the buses in
make
the
it
area.
straightforward.
This is
because
the postcode. Yeah.
when I think about it, if a young person is like, okay, so the meeting is 2 hours, they can set out 2 hours. That means the rest of the time before and after is theirs. But if it's in person, the meeting is 2 hours. Oh, but where am I coming from? It's too long.
And
we have that phrase. That's long, man.
That's long. Yeah.
That's too long.
Because again, talking about attracting young people, I say go to postgraduates or undergraduates. So go to universities.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get young people, and if they're in the middle of studies, they can find possibly a 2-hour window to jump online and attend a meeting.
There you go.
But to leave campus, if they're on campus,
or their flat, or their apartment,
or whatever, to travel to a meeting, and then return, that's a harder do.
And something we've spoken about in a previous episode, if they don't drive because they don't need to have that expense or whatever, then they've got to factor that in as well. And so that's what I'm saying. I think that's why I say we've got to be very careful about saying the world is opening up, because for young people the world has always been open.
Yeah. I've been saying more and more recently, for young people, they know school, they know home, and the rest of the world. There is no local, regional, national, global. Everything is just the world, home, school.
Because I only hear older generations talk about in this region of the UK. For me, I look for the city or the town I'm interested in, and that's it. What region it's in, I really don't care.
Matter,
I really don't care, because I will easily talk about cities and areas that are not in this country as easy as I would talk about cities and areas in this country. So for me, breaking up the UK regionally, what does that really mean? When some of my closest friends don't live in this country, but that doesn't mean they're further from me. Physically, maybe, but that doesn't mean we're not close.
But when you're virtual, you could literally be in the other room.
Exactly.
Or the other side of the country, the globe.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
What if you think of governors who go on holiday, but on the day of the meeting, they're available and they're happy to be a part of the meeting.
Well, that's what actually happened to me in October when, just before the second or the third lockdown, I've lost count now, I managed to get a sneaky trip away, and literally my plane landed at 2:00, the meeting was at 4, and I was off the plane, in the taxi, at the airport, at the accommodation, in my room, laptop open, ready for 4:00 meeting. And they didn't know that I just accepted the meeting.
Because you can attend.
Because I could attend.
Regardless of where you are geographically.
Absolutely.
So they didn't lose out on the talent in that meeting.
And that's the beauty about everything virtual now.
That's why I'm saying, I am not saying, just to clarify, I am not saying that in-person meetings are bad or the worst or the wrong decision even. What I'm saying is I haven't heard a benefit or a pro strong enough that outweighs the pros and the benefits of virtual. Convince me. Make it make sense.
Not just because that's the way it's always been.
Because otherwise it makes you question, are governors who are attending meetings doing a job or socializing? What is the point of the meeting? Because if you just want to sit in a room and, I haven't seen you for ages. I saw your face on my screen an hour ago. Do we really have to see each other? Are we friends? Or are we friends? Acquaintances? Are we associates? Are we colleagues? Are we doing a job together? Are we working? Are we building a professional relationship? Or are you trying to get in my inner circle? Like, what? Explain it to me. I want to know.
Wow.
You get what I mean, though?
Yeah, and I don't even think it's a generational
Governor
thing.
visits, yes, that's what I say.
I think because
I don't think it's about my age.
Yeah, I'm the same. I want to attend the meeting. I don't do talking shops anyway. Attend the meeting, let's get the business done, and then I'm gone. And it's not, it's not because I'm antisocial or anything. It's just not me personally.
Yes.
My character is not like
And
that.
as far as I'm concerned, I am very sociable. I will talk to absolutely anyone. I am a very dynamic individual, and I can get on with absolutely anyone. But I have my colleagues, I have my friends, I have my family, I have the people that I tell my most intimate secrets to. I have the people that know very little about me, but enough to say, I want to work with Olivia. So, for me, it has to, even if a friend says, Liv, let's link up, I'm like, okay, cool, we'll plan something. And then it doesn't happen. And I'm good with that, because if it's meant to happen, it will happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if there's a friend I haven't seen for a while and we want to spend some time together because we want to bounce off energy and stuff like that, what is the reason for the meet? Just like, what is the reason for the call?
Yeah, I think it's a debate that will roll on.
It will do.
But as I said, I think the autumn term, if we are back to face as an option or compulsory, I think the autumn term will be a leveler.
Yeah,
I think people will really begin to realise, I don't really like this. I think attendance will dictate things. I think the even if people are meeting in person, and I think meetings will be shorter. Otherwise, people will start to question,
like,
why are we here this long? I've been in a 4-hour meeting, and you just wouldn't even consider conducting a 4-hour online meeting unless it was a training event, but certainly not a governing body meeting.
It doesn't respect the time of the people around the table when you just assume that people are gonna stay until the meeting finishes.
And it goes
so
back,
even though it's longed out.
Yeah, it goes back to what we've said in previous episodes. If, as a governor, you prepare properly for the meeting, and you come with your questions for discussion, with your decision for the decisions, then you can be efficient. And if that doesn't happen, in my opinion, that makes meetings longer. When they don't need to be. So maybe instead of asking the question about should we be in person or virtual, the question should be, are we being efficient and effective?
Yes.
And what is the most efficient and effective? Because nobody will want to travel for an hour for a half an hour, 45-minute meeting.
See,
nobody will want to do that. But a virtual meeting can be half an hour, 45 minutes, and be efficient and effective.
Exactly.
But nobody's going to want to travel. There is no way I will want to travel.
I just imagine people traveling to a meeting, getting stuff in traffic and saying, you know what, at this point, I'm going to be 20 minutes late to the meeting. I may as well just go home and read the minutes before the next meeting. So read the minutes of the meeting I couldn't attend, send in my apologies that I haven't been able to get there. There's going to be these attendance issues because people are really going to ask themselves, is it worth the travel?
Yeah.
You could even lose governors.
Yeah.
You could say, people say, if my school is so hot on going back to in-person meetings, people may say, well, it's no longer for me, it no longer fits me, and people
and my lifestyle
are entitled to make those decisions. Now, I'm not knocking in person for the people who genuinely like to feel connected and be in the room with people, but they've also probably made a personal decision for them. They may not have a social group in which they have social opportunities to connect with people. So that's could be their reason. Yeah. So it's about also understanding what the individual drivers are or motives are of the people around your governing body table.
And it's understanding that the world has changed. There are lots of people now who will be negotiating with their employers about home working.
Yeah.
There are employers who are actively encouraging people to work from home because it's more cost effective for them. So then you'll get to the point where you'll say, okay, I'm at home and the only thing I need to leave my house for is this meeting.
Thank you.
Do I really want to do that?
No. That's me answering the questions, even though I know you weren't directing them at me. It's hard. It's hard. You know what? If I'm honest, if I level with you, and we'll probably wrap up here before we do our takeaways, I will say if I'm honest, and for anyone who's listening who knows me, it's like what I have been thinking about is I really want to stay with my schools. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But I find myself asking, am I prepared if either of them or both of them choose to go back to 100%, even 90% in-person meetings? Am I willing to choose being a school governor at that school over myself?
Yeah.
That's the question I'm asking myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does the decision or the direction in which the school is going in? Because for me, I think that is a key part of showing how the school is moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's genuinely
embracing
the change, the change. Or so determined on going back.
Yeah.
And so I will literally be making the decision between if they're misaligned, what I desire for me as an individual and what I would love for the school as a entity. If they're misaligned, it will literally be a choice between being a school governor where I let go of what feels right for me in favor of the school, or choosing myself over the school.
Yourself and your well-being.
Embracing.
Yeah.
It is my well-being.
It is your well-being. Yeah.
So I'm genuinely battling that, and it's hard.
I totally understand
because
that.
I love being a school governor, and I love what my schools are doing, and I like the people I work with. I work with you outside of the meetings. I don't really socialize with many of them, but
I think. Are we doing takeaways?
We can do takeaways. Go on, do your takeaway.
My takeaway is that I think that governing bodies, before the end of the academic year, need to have a serious and honest and open discussion about it, and not that it's on the agenda and it's like, oh well, we'll wait and see what the government,
the school has decided, or it's a chair action. No.
And I think every governor's voice on the matter
needs to be
heard, and you find, irrespective of what everybody else is doing, you find what works for your school. So if your school and all your governors are happy to go back, fine. If they're happy to stay virtual, then fine. If they want a hybrid, then fine. And that hybrid could be...
it could be different ways.
It could be different, yeah.
It could be committees are virtual, but LGBs are in person. It could be autumn and first half of the spring term are virtual, and then the second half and the summer term are in person.
Or it could be that some people are virtual
and some people are
in
not.
person.
No, I'm signing up.
And there is the technology to do that. And I know that some schools have been cautious of that because there is a danger that you've almost got a meeting within a meeting.
Yeah.
But there are ways of doing it. Just like this time last year, virtual meetings were alien to everybody.
A lot of people.
Most people. Yeah. Now it's the norm. I've connected with so many people and delivered so much training around diversifying boards that I just wouldn't have been able to do if we weren't virtual.
People wouldn't have had that access to you. I don't want to
go back because the way the schools, the education sector has moved forward in terms of diversity, it wouldn't have happened without virtual platforms. It just wouldn't. So my thing is have an open and honest discussion that allows everybody to give their opinion. And even if you've got one person on that governing body who is not comfortable or chooses not to do what the majority do,
find out why.
Find out why, but find a way to accommodate. Find a way, because that's no different to what we would do with our students.
So true.
It's no different to what we would do with our students. If one of our students was struggling with something,
you'd find a way.
We'd find a way.
Blended learning, when you think about it,
find a way.
You find there have been things like that. Oh, my takeaway, I think my takeaway is actually quite personal. as a governor, I believe it is my responsibility to find out if the schools that I'm involved in are actually going to make that a discussion item. I think that would be my takeaway, an actual action. My takeaway is something for me to do or to check, rather than wait for the school, whether that be the chair or the head or the clerk, to either assume it's going to be one way or not. Probably for me to actually send an email and ask my schools, can I just inquire as to what's being done about this, or how's this being communicated, or even if it is it being discussed at trust level? Is someone going to do what you've just said in terms of put out a vote or put out a consultation, even if it's like a mini version of it, to really know, rather than me sit and wait to hear what the verdict is before I've even known that there was an option to voice something.
Yeah. I think it is that important that it isn't just taken that, okay, we're returning to face-to-face meetings.
So my advice would be to any governor out there, or any new potential governor coming in, find out what your school's planning to do. Start with the next term or the next academic term. If you're scared about asking about from now on, because you can't say from now on. The last 12 months have taught us that. But at least find out, be proactive with knowing about how your school or your governing body is going to coordinate meetings for the next period of time. That's what I would say.
Totally. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please rate, review, and subscribe via your preferred streaming platform. The Governor's Podcast is a brand of the legal entity Education Governance Solutions Limited, and a free training resource for anyone. So if you know someone who is interested in becoming a governor or a trustee, please share this podcast with them. And if you'd like to get in touch with us directly with questions or comments, then drop us an email at thegovernorspodcast@gmail.com.
You can also follow us on social media platforms at The Governor's Podcast. Let's connect.